Insidious: The Red Door is the fifth entry into James Wan and Lee Wanell's follow-up series to Saw that Sony have promised will be the final chapter of the Lambert family's terrifying saga. Although, if you watch this and in interviews and everything else around this, it seems to suggest that it's more of they're taking a bit of a break, but actually they're probably not taking a break and they're just already moving into spin-offs. In fact, there's already a spin-off in place. So this isn't the end by any means, but it is the fifth movie. If you're new to Insidious, the first two movies followed the Lambert family, who moved to a new home after it appeared to be haunted, only to find that the haunting wasn't actually connected to their home at all and had followed them along with it, which absolute nightmare. Imagine how hard it is to get a home and then you buy a second home and then it turns out to be pointless. Like, that's a horror movie to me. Right there and then, that's all the horror I need. But it gets worse. Trying to rid their afflicted son and later husband of the haunting is what leads them into what's called the Further, which is an astral plane that allows ghosts essentially to hijack their bodies. The Red Door is a sequel to the two initial films, as opposed to the prequels that followed, that focus more on the series star, psychic Elise, played by horror veteran Lynn Shay, who's also starred in the likes of Nightmare on Elm Street and Critters. I'm a big horror fan, but also, I'm going to be honest, I'm also a bit of a horror snob, and I can't stand cheap jump scare horror. And I like mine with a bit of bite, a little bit of psychological horror, and a bit of depth behind it, a bit of meaning, a bit of metaphors. Like, I'm all about that. Something that feels realistic and should terrify me outside of the cinema, as opposed to trying to just give me a fright with jarring set pieces. Like, for example, I don't believe that if I walk around the corner and someone's like, oh, and I get a fright, that I've just been in a horror movie. But that's, again, what passes in a lot of these things, except add weird color, a lot of budget, and, like, freaky monsters that look like bad Halloween costumes. Therefore, I don't really consider what I'd seen before with this Insidious as real horror, because that's exactly what the entire series has been. Like, it's really quiet and tense, and then all of a sudden, a baby starts crying, and then boom, something scary, and then it's back to being quiet again. And that's literally all this movie series has been. The Red Door threatens to give some kind of explainer to tie everything together by basing itself on a consistent recurring door that we've seen throughout the movie. So here's one last chance to be the rug that ties the room together. Almost all of the original cast are back, including Ty Simpkins and Andrew Astor, who played the children in the original and are now in their 20s. Meanwhile, behind the camera, Juan and Wanell moved into producer roles as Scott Teems handles the screenplay, and leading man Patrick Wilson makes his directorial debut. We pick up 9 years after the second movie at the funeral of Josh's mother. Josh is estranged from his family, having broken up with Renee and at odds with Dalton as he's getting set to go to college. We learn in flashback that both he and Dalton had been hypnotized into forgetting the incidents of the first two movies. And we followed the pair of them for the majority of the movie, and that seems to be what the movie focuses on more than anything else, as their memories start coming back and strange happenings start increasing, of course, with Dalton trying to navigate these, as well as college life with Sinclair Daniels Chris, while Josh seeks medical attention to address his concerns. It feels a bit like they got the band back together, but they couldn't really make the scheduling work fully. Rose Byrne, for example, who in the original was probably the main character and definitely the audience avatar, only really shows up for the final act. She isn't in it much, and then, like, I can't think of what she did or how her character really grew. Andrew Astor is worse. He's in hardly any of the ensemble scenes, and it's mainly in the couple of scenes he is in on his phone, like discussing with other characters and stuff that just could have been taped while he was on a different movie set, to be honest. Daniels, on the other hand, is an absolute gem of an add to the series and adds some much needed pep to the typically morose demeanor of the Lamberts themselves. The series actually works quite well when it's not taking itself too seriously. Like, if this was a comedy horror and they embrace their comedy leanings, even with the originals, I feel like I quite like Insidious, and I did like those aspects of the originals, particularly the characters of Specs and Tucker, who were reduced to a brief cameo here. They were essential in keeping that bit of levity and kind of gave them the movie some redeemable qualities. Daniels takes that baton and runs with it here, with great lines such as responding to Dalton turning around at one stage and saying, "I'm not like a ghost," by her saying, "And you never will be with that kind of attitude, Casper." The Red Door is actually better for me than its predecessors because it got that comedy to horror balance more right. The horror doesn't really, there are elements and teases, but it doesn't really kick in until the last 20, 30 minutes. And again, you don't mind. Whereas the second movie, chapter 2, was pretty much all horror. And again, it just didn't work. It was just like more like a music video than anything else. The scenes in the further are, for me, where the movie loses the run of itself. But I appreciate if there are fans of this, and I'll say it, there are a lot of fans of the Insidious series. But for me, it just becomes silly, child level comedy made more for the annoying teens who spent half my screen talking and snorting laughing than for actual horror fans. It's for people who don't even want to like care about a plot and just want to get a fright and go among their friends, and that's it. Which is a shame because for me, there's an opportunity for symbolism and metatext that could have made this into a great horror with a bit of bite had they focused on the right things. Like, what if the further was to represent kind of the inner recesses of our mind where our darkest thoughts live, and the moral of the story is that we need to confront and be one with those. And it's kind of a problem where I'm spending like a lot of the time watching the movie thinking about this movie would be really good if this was the plot. But it's not the plot. It's not any of that. The further is just a scary place with spooky ghosts behind a door that's red because blood is red. And that's it. That's literally the limit of what you're talking about. And that's what the entire Insidious series is, the Red Door very much included. Unfulfilled potential with glimpses of promise that never gets built up on in favor of cheap, boring jump scares.